What is more Southern than a biscuit? I'll wait. All right. When you think about Southern cooking, you probably think about those classic recipes that just scream, I'm in the South. Fried chicken, macaroni, there's collard greens. Um, all of that is well and fine, but all of those things are better with a biscuit. Biscuits are like everything. They take a little practice, but you can do it. Um, and it's fun to get in here and mess and gum and get flour all over the kitchen and then put it in the oven and then have something really good to eat after. I'm not going to overcomplicate this, but I am going to share some tips and maybe some insight that I found that makes a really good biscuit. I won't say the best biscuit, but it is a really good biscuit. Um, and some things just to kind of be careful of when you go to get your ingredients and your cooking process. But I promise it's not hard and anybody can do it and it's going to be really good. So let's get to it. All right, let's talk about the main ingredient for these biscuits, the flour. Okay, lots of options at the grocery store. The main thing that I would recommend you get is self-rising flour. There's all-purpose and there's self-rising. You want to use self-rising flour. It just eliminates some extra ingredients that you would need to add if you use all-purpose. Having said that, there is a secret weapon that a lot of Southern cooks have when it comes to making their biscuits, and it's the flour itself. It is none other than white lily. Now, there's a couple of variations of white lily self-rising flour. I have started buying the unbleached, so the red label. The regular self-rising white lily is a green label. That's neither here nor there. One's bleached, one's unbleached. The thing is, just get self-rising and preferably white lily. I have made biscuits with flour that is not white lily, and there's a difference. Sorry. But that's, I mean, if you can't get white lily flour or you don't have white lily flour and you just get a real big hankering for some biscuits, get in there and get yourself rising flour that you got in the pantry and make some. They're still going to be good. But scientifically speaking, there is a reason that white lily is the secret weapon to Southern biscuits, and it's because it is made from a soft winter wheat flour that has a lower protein and a lower gluten content. So when you mix up the biscuits and you work the dough, less gluten is released or activated, and they yield a more tender, soft biscuit as compared to other flours. So, fun fact, white lily flour is where it's at. Another thing to be cognizant of when you make biscuits is the temperature of your oven. Hotter is better. Do not cook biscuits at 350. Number one, they're going to take forever. Number two, they're not going to rise as well. Usually, I don't measure. That's kind of Southern cooking in general. You kind of cook with the spirit. But I've tried to give it a recipe as close to what I would normally do as possible. The recipe I use is with whole buttermilk. Buttermilk biscuits need buttermilk. Just making that clear. Um, but there are different types of buttermilk as well. There's a whole buttermilk and a low fat buttermilk. Whole buttermilk is going to be thicker, so you're going to need more of it as compared to the low fat, which is thinner. If you use the same amount of low fat buttermilk in a recipe that is for whole buttermilk, you're going to have some wet biscuits. So it's okay to use one or the other. If all you can find, I know some stores are really crazy. They don't carry whole buttermilk, they just carry the low fat, whatever. But you can use the low fat. You're just going to need less buttermilk than the recipe that is made with whole, thicker buttermilk. And I think that's about the particulars. The flour, making sure it's self-rising and preferably white lily. The oven temperature being hot, and by hot, I mean 475. I just found that 475, they cook quick, but they get done as the perfect temperature for biscuits, 475. Whole buttermilk, but if you need to use low-fat buttermilk, it's fine. Just use less, and then pick your pan. Don't cook them in glass. I've never cooked them in a glass pan, and I don't know what they'll do. but a standard cookie sheet or a cast iron griddle, can't go wrong. Before I get started putting the ingredients in the bowl, I like to go ahead and take some good old Crisco. And I've washed my hands. Yes, I've washed my hands. Don't be cooking if you ain't washed your hands. You want to take a liberal amount and just kind of grease the skillet. Now I do this first because I don't like Crisco to linger on my hands. So I'm gonna wash my hands real quick and we'll be right back and we'll get our biscuits going in the bowl. In this bowl, I have 2.5 cups of white lily self-rising flour. And I have my extra flour over here because we got to flour our surface. We're going to dump the biscuits out and work them on. So, but in the bowl for the recipe, you want 2.5 cups of white lily self-rising flour. Clean hands. We've got 1/3 cup of sour cream, 1 whole stick of salted butter, between 2 and 2.5, 3 ounces of solid block cream cheese, and 1 cup of buttermilk. These aren't just the Crisco and Buttermilk biscuits. I made those a lot. They're good. They're like, everybody's kind of gold standard Crisco Buttermilk flour. I've been making these for several years, and I am now the biscuit maker at Thanksgiving with this recipe. So I'm not saying that as, oh, this is so good. People might not like them, but they taste really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butter, the whole stick, and I'm going to grate it with a cheese grater right into this bowl of flour. While I'm doing this, I will say I've already preheated my oven to 475. I find 475 to be the perfect temperature for cooking biscuits. So the entire stick of butter is getting grated into the flour. And sometimes I will just kind of dip the butter in the flour before I grate more, just to kind of help it not stick in the cheese grater. Do you have to do this? Nope. You can cut it up with a knife into fine chunks and go ahead and blend it in. But I find this just kind of helps it get more evenly distributed. Let me not get the paper in there. So I will say, I'm not going to say you have to use XYZ equipment because not everybody has it. There are ways to do this without using some of the equipment I'm going to use. Like, you don't have to use a cheese grater. You can literally cut it into little cubes, put it in your bowl, and work your dough. My hand is cramping. So I like to take the butter. Look at me, already getting messy. I like to take the butter and kind of twiddle it. Just kind of work it around in the flour to keep it from forming big lumps. We're going to work this all together, but you want the butter to not be in one place. You want it to be evenly in the flour, evenly distributed. Okay, next I'm going to take my cream cheese. And what I do is I get some flour on my hands and I just pinch off little balls of cream cheese. And it's okay if the counter gets floured. If flour gets on the counter, because guess where we're going to roll these biscuits out? On the counter. Why? Because that's how I do it. My counters are clean. I clean them daily. There is nothing on my counter to get my biscuits to contaminate them. Trust me. All right. Now, if you didn't, look at me. If you didn't want to roll them out on the counter, you can always put down wax paper, but that to me is wasteful. Or you can use a silicone baking mat, but then that's something to wash. So anyway, just gonna pinch off, and then when I say pinch off, I mean like kind of like that. It doesn't really matter because we're fixing to make it all small we're about to make the butter and the cream cheese smaller in the flour, but just so it's evenly distributed. We don't want a big clump. This is one of these things that you don't have to use. This is a pastry blender. If you want to pick one up, I saw at Walmart the other day, they do have a Walmart brand. They have a really expensive brand, but the Walmart brand, which works just as well, is only like $2. So just in the kitchen utensil section, pick you one up. And what you do is I just turn the bowl and kind of go down the side of the bowl. Wow, that was loud. Sorry. And just kind of rock back and forth. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting the butter and the flour, the butter and the cream cheese into the flour. Make sure it doesn't get clumped up here. And occasionally I will feel it because you want it to be kind of in pea-size pieces. Okay, so take it out. And then I don't know why I do this, but oh, hold on, I need a spatula. I don't know why I do this way, but I've always kind of put the cream, once I get the butter and cream cheese broken up good, I'll take my sour cream and put it in the bowl. And then I'll do kind of the same thing. I'll just, not that you can cut sour cream in there, but I'll just kind of work it in the dough with this. But you can totally just stir it in. You can stir it in with a spoon, or a fork would work really good with this. But just so it's kind of broken up. Again, you can't cut cream cheese in, but you can kind of press it into the flour with this. Okay. All right. So I'm done with the pastry blender. Let me get just a regular spoon. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the buttermilk, and I'm not going to dump it all in here at one time because you kind of have to make a judgment call, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. So this is a cup though. This is a cup in total. And so I'm going to put a good everything, but maybe a third. I'll put 2/3 of a cup and see kind of what it, just kind of you're not beating it up. You're just kind of pressing it around and letting the dough start to form. I'm going to need more than that. And this will sometimes depend on the temperature outside, the temperature of your house. But generally, this recipe works pretty well. Yeah, I'm going to use all of it. There's just too much wet still. Use this. Okay, get all of it. All right. All of it. All right. So now, that's pretty much, there's a little bit of crumbly left in the bottom. Let me see if I can show you. Like right there on the very side, but that's okay. That much is okay. The majority of it is coming up from the side of the bowl. So that's what you want. That really is what you want. Clean your spoon off. Do not overmix this. You just want the dough to come together, okay? If you keep stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring, you're going to have a tough biscuit. Don't nobody want a tough biscuit. I'm just going to put it down. So I take it all out, and there it is. There's the dough. All right, now watch. You just want to make sure the bottom of where you have the dough is good and floured, because you don't want it to stick, but I don't think it will stick anyway, not as compact as it is right now. So I do not use a rolling pin. I don't roll this out. I pat it out. If you roll it, sometimes it gets a little too firm. But what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of folding it over, patting it out. Whoops, see, it stuck a little bit, so I need a little more flour. And then kind of do a flip. Make sure it's got some flour in there. I'm going to put one more layer in it. Every time you fold it and pat, you're putting layers in there, okay? I'm going to fold one more time. Put a little flour. All right, now, it came together just that quick. So this is the circle I'm going to work with, okay? It don't matter if the edges are a little scraggly. Let me wash my hands and we'll be right back. All right, so I have these biscuit cutters here. You don't have to use that. You can literally take the top of a glass and cut out circles. But I have these. We've had them forever. I'm going to dip it in my flour. Make sure you can see the pan. And now I'm going to start on the very outside edge. Push down and flip out. Okay? Push down, flip out. Push down, flip out. You know, you got people that cook biscuits for recipes and they say, don't twist when you push down. Honestly, I've done both. I've twisted it. I've twisted and then I've just pushed down and up. And I can't tell a huge difference. But, you know, I'll just do it the way everybody preaches you got to do it, okay? So I'm going to keep dipping that in my flour because I see that one came out a lot easier. I don't want them to get stuck in there because then they might get misshaped. You don't want a misshaped biscuit. So I kind of cut them out to where I want to rework the dough as little as possible because every time you go messing with the dough and putting it back together, you're handling it and you're mixing it more and it might become a little tough after a little bit. And you don't want that. So I'm handling them very carefully. And some people say make them touch. I like them to where they get a little heat around them because, like I said, they are going to rise and they're going to puff up. And so I want to have them enough room to rise without just being one big blob when they come out, you know? All right, so I am going to have to rework this just a little bit, and I don't do it much. I kind of put it together, mash it down, fold it over a couple times, and pat it back out to about the consistency or the thickness that those were. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes they're a little thinner. It don't matter. I personally like a really thin and crispy biscuit. My wife does not. So, happy wife, happy life. Amen, amen. I'm just kidding. All right, so again, this we can try to put it on the griddle, but I kind of like the way this looks. I think if you put any more on there, it's going to look a little too crowded. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven at 475. And I'm actually going to do what I normally do, the way I like them. I'm going to mash this flat, put in a little bit of the flour, and I'm actually going to put it on a piece of tin foil. And I'm going to bake this whole thing that's going to be thin and crispy, and I call it a thin skit. Oh, it's so good. All right, so let's get it in the oven. Woo! 475's hot. Actually, you know what? Changed my mind. I need to finish seasoning up this skillet. So there's no better way to season a skillet than cooking in it. So I'll make sure I got enough grease in there. Put that in there. And I'm going to let it go too. Woo! Lordy, that pan's already hot. All right, I'm going to clean up and I'll be back. They're done and the house smells amazing. And bada boom. Bada bing. They are piping hot, but I will handle them very gently just because, you know, I have to show you what they look like. But they're done on all sides. And look at that bottom. Can you hear that bottom? It's like not crispy, but it's not crunchy, but it's crispy. And that's the cast iron. It doesn't matter what you cook them on, just cook them. They're so good. So I will show you kind of how I like to eat them. Let me just cut one of these bad boys open and see what we got. Let's see what we're working with here. I'm going to use this cheese knife. Probably not what you're supposed to use, but okay. Do Do you see that little dollop right there? That is a dot of cream cheese. Woo! A dot of cream cheese. All right, so we're going to gild the lily just a scoop. And we're going to put just a little bit of butter. A little bit of butter in there. And we're going to, I'm stuck in the cabinet. We're going to put a little bit of blueberry jam. Oh, that's going to be good. This is not homemade, but we got some homemade strawberry jam. Ooh, homemade strawberry jam on a biscuit. So good. And then this right here. These are good right by themselves. But if you want a little something to go on them, Tupelo honey. If you never had Tupelo honey, oddly enough, it comes from the swamp around where we're from. It's so good. All right. You got the honey, the butter, and the blueberry jelly. And listen. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing like it. I mean, it's almost soul stirring. It's so good. Perfectly buttery texture, crunchy top. Not really crunchy top, flaky top, crunchy bottom, but none of it stiff. Like, you can squeeze all the sides of that biscuit. It's not firm. Don't overwork your dough. You'll get a hockey puck. Just so we can reiterate, it's 2.5 cups of look, did you hear that? 2.5 cups of self-rising flour, 1 stick of grated or cubed up butter, 2.5 ounces of pulled apart cream cheese, 1/3 cup of sour cream, 1 cup of buttermilk. 475 until golden brown. It took about 16, 17-ish minutes in my oven. And then this right here, this thin skit. It's like one big thin biscuit. And it's hot. But break it apart. I mean, ooh, that might make you put your shouting shoes on. Listen, it's not hard. Get in there, make you some biscuits, and remember, everything's better with a biscuit. This is proving to be a much more strenuous process than I was anticipating. All right, just one more test with the ring light to see if that makes me look a little better, and I think it might.